श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवाञ्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिराधानाथ स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते राधानाथ स्वामी प्रभुपाद कृपामूर्तये कारुण्य विनय गुणसम्पन्न मम उद्धारक प्रभो नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे कौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदाय ते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरद्विषे नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे राम 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 हरे हरे श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय। So let's start with the next quality that as explained about Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, about the pure devotion to the Lord. It's Sukham. It's very important thing that we should know about how this devotional service gives us a real pleasure. Srila Rupa Goswami has analyzed the different sources of happiness. He says, Sukham Vaishayikam Brahmam Ishwaram Cheti Tat Tridha. So this happiness is divided into three categories. One is Vaishayikam, happiness derived from material enjoyment. Then Brahman, happiness derived by identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman. And third, Ishwaram, that is derived from Krishna consciousness or rendering devotional service to the Lord. Siddhaya Paramashcharya cha Bhukti Muktischa Shashvati Nityam cha Paramanando Bhaved Govinda Bhaktitaha. In the Tantra Shastra, Lord Shiva speaks to his wife, Sati. He says, my dear wife, a person who has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Govinda and who has thus developed pure Krishna consciousness can be very easily, and beyond this, he can enjoy the happiness achieved by the pure devotees. Siddhaya Paramacharya Bhukti Mukti cha Shashvati Nityam cha Paramanando Bhaved Govinda Bhakti. It gives the highest pleasure. When someone renders devotional service to the Lord, that gives the highest pleasure. In Hari Bhakti Suddhodaya, it is explained, Bhuyopi yacha devesha tvai bhakti dhridastu me ya mokshanta chaturvarga falada sukada lata iti. See, happiness derived from a pure devotional service is the highest because it is eternal. It's Shashwata. Hmm? The happiness derived from the material perfection and understanding oneself to be Brahman is inferior because it is temporary. There is a no preventing one's falling down from material happiness, and there is even hmm, there is no preventing one's falling down from the material happiness, and there is even every chance of falling down from the spiritual happiness derived out of identifying oneself with the impersonal Brahman. It has been seen that a great Mayavadis, impersonalists, sannyasis, very highly educated and almost realized souls may sometimes take to political activities or to social welfare activities. The reason is that they actually do not derive any ultimate transcendental happiness in the impersonal understanding and therefore must come down to the material platform and take to such a mundane affairs. There are many instances, especially in India, where these Mayavadi sannyasis descend to the material platform again. But a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness will never return to any sort of a material platform. However alluring and attracting they may be, he always knows that no material welfare activities can compare to the spiritual activity of a Krishna consciousness. So this is what the glory of accepting devotional service and the happiness that you derive from that. You never fall down from that state of a consciousness. Unlike materialistic people, they get attracted to materialist things and which are temporary. And sometimes even the impersonalists who have given up all the material things, but at some point they get attracted to the material activities, and some spiritual personalities or big sannyasis, they fall into the trap of politics and they become more active in that because they don't have that real taste of Krishna consciousness. And that's what Prabhupada here says that, however, alluring and attracting the material activities may be, devotee always knows that no material welfare activities can compare to the spiritual activity of a Krishna consciousness. The mystic perfection achieved by actually successful yogi are 8 in number. Anima, Anima Siddhi refers to the power by which one can become so small that he can enter into a stone. Modern scientific improvement also enable us to enter into stone because they provide for excavating so many subways, penetrating the hills, etc. So Anima Siddhi, the mystic perfection of a trying to enter into stone, has also been achieved by material science. Similarly, all of the yoga siddhis or perfections are material arts. For example, in one yoga siddhi, there is a development of a power to become so light that one can float in the air or on water. That is also being performed by modern scientists. They are flying in the air. They are floating on the surface of the water and they are traveling under the water. After comparing all these mystic yoga siddhis to materialistic perfections, we find that the materialistic scientists strive for the same perfection. So actually, there is no difference between mystic perfections and materialistic perfections. A German scholar once said that the so-called yoga perfection had already been achieved by the modern scientist, and so he was not concerned with them. he intelligently went to India to learn how he could understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. Of course, in the category of a mystic perfection, there are certain processes which the material scientists have not yet been able to develop. For instance, a mystic yogi can enter into the sun planet simply by using the rays of the sunshine. This perfection is called lagima. Similarly, a yogi can touch the moon with his finger. Though the modern astronauts go to the moon with the help of spaceships, they undergo many difficulties, whereas person with a mystic perfection can extend his hand and touch the moon with his finger. This siddhi is called prapti or acquisitions. With this prapti siddhi, not only can the perfect mystic yogi touch the moon planet, but he can extend his hands anywhere and take whatever he likes. He may be sitting thousands of miles away from a certain place, and if he likes, he can take fruits from a garden there. This is Prapti Siddhi. So Prabhupada is explaining here whatever one can achieve by materialistic activities or so-called material scientific advancement, those are as similar as attained by the mystic siddhis. But there are few things which are subtler in form, can be attained only by the mystic powers. But still, all those things never gives you the highest pleasure of a Krishna consciousness. And that's why Prabhupada says there is another perfect mystic perfection which is known as a prakamya. By this prakamya power, one can achieve anything he likes. For example, one can make water into his eyes and then again come out from within the eye. Similar, simply by his will, and he can perform such a wonderful activity. The highest perfection of the mystic power is called Kamavashayita. Kamavashayita. This is also magic, but whereas the Prakamya power acts to create wonderful effects within the scope of nature, Kamavasayita permits one to contradict nature. In other words, to do the impossible. Of course, one can derive great amounts of temporary happiness by achieving such a yogic mystic perfection. So all these ashtasiddhis, one may can do that common man can get attracted. And Prabhupada called them foolish. Foolishly, people who are enamored of the glimmer of a modern materialistic advancement are thinking that the Krishna consciousness movement is for a less intelligent man. I'm better off being busy with my material comforts, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life. These people do not know that at any moment they can be kicked out of the material situation. Due to ignorance, they do not know that real life is eternal. The temporary comforts of the body are not the goal of life, and it is due only to darkest ignorance that people become enamored of the glimmering advancement of material comforts. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore said that the advancement of a material knowledge renders a person more foolish because it causes one to forget his real identity by its glimmer. This is doom for him. Because this human form of a life is meant for getting out of the material contamination, by the advancement of a material knowledge, people are becoming more and more entangled in the material existence. They have no hope of being liberated from catastrophe. In the Hari Bhakti Suddhoda, it is stated that Prahlad Maharaj, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed to Narasimhadev as follows: My dear Lord, I repeatedly pray unto your lotus feet that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray at that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of a Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all the other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of a liberation from material existence. Actually, a pure devotee does not aspire after any of this perfection, because the happiness derived from the perfection, because the happiness derived from the devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so transcendental and so unlimited that no other happiness can compare to it. It is said that even one drop of a happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of a happiness derived from any other activity. Thus, any person who has developed even a little quality of a pure devotional service can very easily kick out all the other kinds of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. See, that's what, as Lord explains in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yasmin sthitona. Once one is situated in that particular position, Gurunam api na vichalet, he never get disturbed by anything. Getting disturbed not only because of the material suffering, but because of happiness, so-called material happiness of all these things, the economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Or in the last canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Yad rasamrata truptasya na asti kvachi rati syat. Someone who is really got uh, the taste of Krishna consciousness, then he never gets attracted by any other kinds of a taste in this material world. Yab labdhva cha aparam labhe na labate adhikam tatha. If someone gets this, then he never desires anything else, of this material world. Hmm. Further, Prabhupada says, there was a great devotee of Chaitanya known as a Kolavecha Sridhar, who was a very poor man. He was doing a small business selling cups made from the leaves of a plantain trees, and his income was almost nothing. Still, he was spending 50% of his small income on the worship of the Ganga, that is river, and with the other 50% he was somehow living. Lord Chaitanya once revealed himself to this confidential devotee, Kolavecha Sridhar, and offered him any opulences he liked. But Sridhar informed the Lord that he did not want any material opulence. He was quite happy in his present position and wanted only to gain unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. That is the position of pure devotee. If they can be engaged 24 hours each day in devotional service, they do not want anything else, not even the happiness of liberation or of becoming one with the Supreme. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is also said that any person who has developed even a small amount of devotional service doesn't care a fig for any kind of a happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, or the 5 kinds of liberation. Haribhakti Mahadevya Sarva Muktyadi Siddhaya Bhuktaschadbhutastasya Cheshti Ka Vada Anuvrataha. That's what Narad Pancharatra says. Any kind of a happiness derived from the religiousness, economic development, liberations, or sense gratification. Managev Prabhudaya Hridaye Bhagavata Dhratau Purushastu Chatvara Strunayante Samantataha. So someone's heart which is full of a devotion for the Lord, this Purushartha Chaturtha, all this Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, they never enter into his heart. They Chatvaras Trunayante, they feel like a dry grass for a devotee. It is stated that a personal attendant and maidservants of a queen follow the queen with all respect and obeisances. Similarly, the joys of this Chatur Purushartha Chatushtya, religiousness, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, follow the devotional service of the Lord. In other words, a pure devotee does not lack any kind of a happiness derived from any source. He does not want anything but service to Krishna. But even if he should have another desire, the Lord fulfills this without the devotee's asking. So these are the wonderful quality of a pure devotional service. If someone renders pure devotional service, then he really have this joy of Krishna consciousness. Then he doesn't need anything else for him to become happy in this world, you know. So how many qualities that we have discussed?
Three qualities. Three.
The first one? Which is the first?
Relief from material distress.
That's the first one. Klesha Agni.
Yes, Raj.
Second?
All auspiciousness.
Huh?
All auspiciousness. All good, all auspiciousness will come to the devotee.
What we called in Sanskrit?
Brahman.
Huh?
Brahman, I think.
What?
Was it? Shubhada.
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 What is meant by Shubha? What was the definition of Shubha?
Auspiciousness. Like Subhadra. Like all good things.
Means what? Shubhani Prinanam Sarva Jagata Manurakta Sadguna Sukham Ityadinam Akhyatani Manishibhi. The scholars, they say, what is meant by Shubha? Prinanam. Prinanam means? Yesterday we discussed only.
Purity.
Prinanam means purity.
No.
No. Becoming dear. Sarva Jagatan Anurakta. For him, everyone is dear to everyone and he is dear to everyone. The person who has the qualities that he is dear to everyone and everything is dear to him, and he has all the good qualities, Sadguna. Sukham, he has the real happiness. The person who has all this thing is called as a Shubha. And when once attained the devotional service, that gives him all auspiciousness. And then we discuss one shloka from fifth canto, where Shukadeva Goswami explains Parikshit Maharaj that, which is that verse? Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchanaha samasate sarva gunaihi suraha. The person who has a devotional service or devotion to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, he develops all auspicious qualities of demigods. And which is the third one?
Sukham.
Sukham. And how many kinds of sukha or happiness are there? As per Rupa Goswami, what he says?
Three types.
Which are those? Vaishayikam, the material,
Vaishakam,
Brahmam,
Brahman, and Ishwaram.
and Ishvara. So which is the highest?
Ishwaram.
That is rendering devotional service to the Lord.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Should we go for the next one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The next quality is Sudurlabham. So, Rupa Goswami Pad, he says, Sadhano ghairena asangairalabhya suchirad api harina chashvadayeti dvidha sa syat sudurlabha. In the preliminary phase of a spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes of attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, he still cannot achieve devotional service. See, there are many different sadhanas, practices that one can execute, but it will not help you to achieve devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very hopeful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even a liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in devotional service. Any thoughts about this?
Duryodhana is the perfect example. When Krishna goes to Hastinapur for negotiating peace.
Last time you asked one question. People with a kind-hearted, with a good character, but they are not able to accept devotional service. You got the reason here now? Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. And further, he says that devotional service can be, in fact, be attained only through the mercy of pure devotee. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 19th chapter, text number 51, it is said that, what is that famous verse? ब्रह्मांड भ्रमिते कौन भाग्यवान जीव गुरु कृष्ण प्रसादे पाए भक्ति लता teacher. By the mercy of spiritual master who is pure devotee and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service, the Siddh of devotional service. There is no other way. The rarity of a devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra. Lord Shiva, he explains to Mother Sati, Jnanataha sulabha mukti bhuktir yajna adi punyataha seyam sadhana sahastrika harir bhakti Sudurlabham. My dear Sati, if one is very fine philosopher, analyzing the different process of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the material comforts of a life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such a process for many thousands of years. So by performing karma kanda, you are not going to get devotional service to the Lord. You can get pious credit and you can enjoy those merits in the heavenly planets. But getting devotional service only depends upon the mercy of Lord and his devotees. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by personal efforts of or by the instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain to be the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees, who is completely freed from the contamination of material desires. Again, in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, text number 18, where Naradji he is said to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Rajan patirguralam bhavatam yaduna Daivam priya kulapati kvacha kinkaro va Astveva mangam bhajata bhagavan mukundo Muktim dadati karachit smano bhakti yogam. My dear king, it is Lord Krishna known as a Mukunda who is the eternal protector of the Pandavas and the Yadus. He is also your spiritual master and instructor in every respect. He is the only worshipable God for you. He is very dear and affectionate, and he is the director of all your activities, both individual and familial. And what's more, he sometimes carries out your orders as if he were your messenger. My dear king, how very fortunate you are. Because of others, all these favors given to you by the Supreme Lord would not even be dreamt of. The purport of this verse is that the Lord easily offers liberation, but he rarely agrees to offer a sole devotional service because by devotional service, the Lord himself becomes purchased by the devotee. So this is what you can achieve by rendering devotional service to the Lord. That you can purchase their lordship, Shranvata Shraddhaya Nityam Grudantasya Swacheshtitam Nati Dirghena Kalena Bhagavan Vishate Hridhi. When you hear about it with the faith and try to glorify him with your activities, Lord becomes very much pleased with you. And you will be able to know him, And that happens only in the association of devotees. So the next quality is Sandrananda, the happiness of becoming one with the supreme. So here, Rupa Goswami very clearly explains. He says, Brahmanando bhavedeshe cha et parardha gunikritah naiti bhakti sukham bhove paramanu tulamapi. Rupa Goswami says that if Brahmananda, or the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme, is multiplied by the trillion fold, it still cannot compare to an atomic fraction of the happiness derived from the ocean of devotional service. In Hari Bhakti Sudoda, it said, Tvat Saksharat Karana Alhad Vishuddha Vidya Stitasya Me Sukhani Goshpadayante Brahmanyapi Jagat Guru. Prahlad Maharaj, while satisfying to Lord Narasimha, he says, My dear Lord of the universe, I'm feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become merged in the ocean of happiness. I know, I, I now consider the happiness of a Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by the cow's hoof in the earth, compared to this ocean of bliss. Similarly, it is confirmed in Bhavartha Dipika by Sridhar Swami, his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Tvat katha amrita pathedo viharanto mahamudaha kurvanti kritinaha kechit chaturvargam trinopamam. My dear Lord, some of the fortunate persons who are swimming in the ocean of your nectar of devotion and who are relishing the nectar of the narrations of your pastimes certainly know ecstasies which immediately minimize the value of the happiness derived from the religiousness, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Such a transcendental devotee regards any kind of a happiness other than devotional service as no better than the straw in the street. See, these are the wonderful qualities of rendering devotional service to the Lord. Sandrananda Visheshatma, which is far better than the Brahmananda. So, any discussion would you like to have? Have any question that we can discuss?
So, Prabhu, so we can go one by one only, or can we directly go to the sixth? I mean, while progressing in the devotional service, can we directly go to the sixth one by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, or how? First, we have to get rid of material and then go to the all auspiciousness. How does it work, Prabhu, practically?
Practically, unless and until you get free from your anarthas, that we have discussed already in Kleshagni. Unless and until your heart is clean, the slate of mind is clean, how it is possible to really understand those happiness which you are deriving from Krishna consciousness? Everything gets fogged or blurred, So first starts with the removing your sins, burning out all your sins from the previous life. Whatever klesha is there in present life, it is because of the previous papa that we have done. But once you start rendering devotional service, it starts burning it out, And once it start burning it out and you have a really removed of that luggage that you are carrying on your back, then your walking becomes enjoyable for you. Otherwise, carrying all that load, tons of loads on your back, it's become difficult, you know. One by one, you can really enjoy all these qualities of devotional service.
Okay. Thank you.